Hello and welcome to the SciFirst MovieTalk episode. So in this episode, I'll be discussing the 2017 computer animated fantasy comedy Gnome Alone, as directed by Lepeniotis. So, if I've got that name right, so when the family suggested this for us to kind of watch, I was a bit intrigued. We did actually watch it over Halloween, so I am kind of catching up with a few reviews that I've had kind of lingering on just a late, but nonetheless, I didn't really know how a bunch of gnomes would quite kind of tie in to everything. And after I kind of realised it wasn't the new Home Alone sequel, nor another follow-up to the British animated gnome movies Romeo and Juliet and Sherlock Gnomes, the plot kind of did thicken. I mean, some gnomes can be kind of odd-looking things, right? And that's garden gnomes, in case you were wondering, and just in case there are any gnomes out there kind of do take umbrage. But I wouldn't say that they were too kind of scary by any stretch in this film. Well, it actually turned out that the gnomes in this film were protecting Earth, if you like, from an onslaught of ravenous creatures called trogs, who had devoured the gnomes' land and turned it into dust many centuries ago. Tasked with forming the last guard against the creatures, the gnomes' mission to keep the Earth safe from the hellish trogs is unwittingly thrown into chaos when Chloe, as voiced by Becky G, and her mother Catherine, as voiced by Tara Strong, move into the house in which the gnomes have their secret base of operations. Well, of course, as you do. Unknowingly, Chloe opens a portal to the Trog's dimension when she takes an amulet she finds in the attic, thinking it's a cute necklace, and to make matters worse, ends up lending it to the popular kid at school in order to get in with her clique. With the threat of impending doom, Chloe teams up with the little Santas, gnomes, and the geeky kid from next door, Liam, as voiced by Josh Peck, to retrieve the amulet and restore order between the two worlds before the trogs run rampant and devour our planet once again. So, certainly an interesting idea, yeah, to say the least. I mean, it's certainly effective for what it is, and indeed the gnomes are pretty much the best part. It's not quite a Disney, nor for that matter an Illumination, nor a DreamWorks. It doesn't kind of have enough energy throughput and output, you know, to compete with other movies from some of the bigger studios, but it was a fair attempt all told, and it does try. It's certainly quirky enough, you know, for the most part, it does succeed at kind of entertaining and delivering a somewhat whimsical offbeat idea. I certainly enjoyed the kind of sci-fi twist to the story, even if, with the gnomes, it was perhaps a little bit surreal. The animation, it's adequate enough, simple at times. Some of the backdrops kind of feel lacking, perhaps, not kind of as detailed as they could have been, I think. The world does seem somewhat empty, there's nothing much here, and there's kind of not much going on at the school. We only ever see about 5 or 6 human characters in total, even at the school dance, which kind of does make everything kind of seem devoid of any real kind of emotional aspect, you know? There's not all that kind of much interaction between many of the human characters at all, and much of the dialogue seems very stunted at times. It doesn't always feel quite as naturally paced as it could have done, and as such, it kind of comes across in this area as kind of a bit awkward and a bit simplistic, a bit dry, like my reviews. But despite this, it is quite the adventure in the end, and we don't always kind of stay in our realm, and this kind of does give the film this distinct kind of science-fi kind of different edge. I mean, it's meant for kids and plays well to that audience, I think, you know? That's where it's squarely aimed at, this one. A great kind of entry-level, kind of horror-esque film for the younger child, or for the younger clientele, with an enemy who's not only ravenous and totally hell-bent on destruction and chaos, but also fun and kind of funky at the same time. Mischievous is probably the best word to use. Not exactly seemingly a world-dominating entity, which, whilst keeping the film fairly tight and light for its target audience, doesn't really make for any kind of particular menacing antagonist, of course. Sort of a kiddish version of a gremlin, perhaps. It doesn't necessarily let the film down as such. I think it fits well with what the film was trying to achieve and the level the film is kind of aimed at. But for as novel as the idea might have been, overall the enemy was nothing new nor exciting in my book, you know? The gnomes, however, They're excellent. The most redeeming aspect of the movie. Some of their antics, especially the gadgets and the gizmos, I love gadgets and gizmos, are brilliantly devised. Just like a gnome to always be tinkering and using everyday objects around them to manufacture some amazing trog-busting contraptions. Very inventive and certainly one of the most entertaining and engaging aspects of the film. Overall, it's certainly a funky, quirky idea. For its audience and given the level that the film was at, it's still pretty entertaining. I would say that compared with other animated movies released around the same time, its animation is more basic, you know, and has more of a kind of an empty feel with very little detail within the background and very little in the way of kind of world building around any of the characters. But it's got heart, and it's a great attempt nonetheless, you know. It's just not all that consistent it's not all that consistent, I think, in that respect. In the end, it was a fairly decent movie to enjoy with the family, that you can kind of just throw on without really kind of requiring too much effort, you know. Not really very remarkable, but a passable effort. So, that brings me to the end of this episode. Many thanks for watching. I do hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please leave a like. Please do hit that subscribe button for more movie reviews, trailer reactions, and other movie-related content. Absolutely loved having here at SciFirst MovieTalk, and definitely love to have you back. Most of all, just thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.